I never imagined my son would call my boss dad. The truth shattered my world. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. The sun was setting, casting an orange glow that felt oddly warm, like an embrace. But inside I was ice. My heart raced, pounding in my chest, as I stared at that innocent, joyful face, my son, Gabriel, giggling and running toward a man I'd known as Mr. Stone. The one who signed my paychecks, the one with the silver hair and cold demeanor. But in that moment, my whole world tilted. He bent down, that smile on his face lit up brighter than the sun, and called him Dad. I gulped. My breathing turned shallow. Could this be real? I felt my stomach knot, twisting as anxiety seeped in. My hands trembled, nails digging into my palms. A chill crept down my spine. It was a moment that broke the silence in my head, shattering everything I thought I knew. How did this happen? I thought back. Last month, everything was fine. I laughed at his goofy jokes during dinner, let him help with homework, even read him his favorite story before bed. Superheroes don't cry, I told him. They're brave. But every bedtime felt darker, the walls feeling smaller, shadows creeping into the corners as I felt the truth flicker just out of reach. Something was changing. Mr. Stone had always kept business and personal lives separate. Or so I thought. The whispered conversations at the office, the way Gabriel's eyes lit up when Mr. Stone came to pick him up from school during the week, that connection had turned into a heavy weight, something deep that neither of us could define yet. I felt sick to my stomach as Gabriel rushed back to me, excitement radiating off him. Mom, did you see? He's the best. He said I can come over after school. My heart dropped. I opened my mouth to speak, but the words stuck, like sandpaper on my tongue. What kind of secret was this? Why had my son not told me? I looked at Mr. Stone, the soft smile on his face melted away any confusion. Was he just being kind? Or was there something darker hidden beneath the surface? The playdate turned into uncovering secrets. Was this love? An affair? Or just twisted coincidence? My mind spun wildly, feelings of betrayal mixing with fear. As I kneeled beside my boy, looking into his eyes, all I saw was innocence, but the unease in my gut told another story. What was my boss doing with my son? My heart pounded louder than ever. Questions piled up, pressing against my chest, each echoing louder than the last. Was I really prepared to lose him? Everything was spiraling. Just then, the laughter faded. Silence enveloped us, thick enough to cut through. Are you okay, Mom? Gabriel asked, peering closely. His voice shimmered with concern. I swallowed hard, unsure how to respond. My world was unraveling before my eyes, the ties to commonality slipping through my fingers. And there it was, an unsaid truth hanging in the air, much heavier than I could bear. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The days that followed felt like I was walking through a fog, each moment blurred with disbelief. Gabriel would return home chattering about Mr. Stone, his dad-like figure, and each story left me feeling more like a stranger in my own life. He would come home with drawings, crayon scribbles filled with hearts and stick figures of him and Mr. Stone, and every time I glanced at those drawings hanging on the fridge, a sharp pain would slice through me. It all felt unreal, especially when Gabriel's laughter echoed down the hall, a sound that should have filled my heart with joy but instead twisted it further. I couldn't shake the feeling that I was losing my grasp on the most precious thing in my life. Each time I turned my gaze towards Gabriel, sitting there blissfully unaware of the storm brewing inside me, the weight of my fears would settle deeper into my bones. Was I to confront Mr. Stone directly? Was he purposely manipulating my son for some unknown reason? One late afternoon, as I sat on the couch trying to focus on a book, I noticed Gabriel staring out the window, the late sun casting shadows across his delicate features. I felt the sudden urge to reach out to him, to connect before he slipped away further into his new world. Hey, buddy, I called, hoping my voice sounded steadier than my insides felt. What's on your mind? He turned to me with wide, luminous eyes. Mom, can we invite Mr. Stone over for dinner? He said he'd love to meet you. The suggestion hit me like a slap in the face. Panic surged through me, tightening its grip around my throat. Maybe we can do something else. I managed to reply, forcing a smile that felt hollow. Gabriel frowned, clearly disappointed. But he's my friend, Mom. I want you both to get along. How could I explain the confusion swirling inside me? The gnawing suspicion that grew each day to him. To myself? Do you really like him that much? I asked with a hint of resignation. Of course. He's super nice, and he has the coolest games. He even showed me how to ride my bike faster. Gabriel beamed, his joy amplifying my inner turmoil. It was a small light breaking through my fog. A glimpse of hope in an otherwise dark situation. Perhaps Mr. Stone was not the villain I imagined. Perhaps he was just a kind man who wanted to share moments of joy with my son. But could I trust him? That evening, I decided to confront this head-on. I texted Mr. Stone, suggesting a coffee meeting, something casual where we could discuss Gabriel. Would he see this as a threat? An overprotective parent? My anxiety swirled wildly, but it was time to take back some control or at least try. When I arrived at the cafe, my heart raced as I spotted him seated at a small table, his silver hair catching the light in a way that made him look almost ethereal. He offered a small smile as I approached, a gesture that felt strangely warm, and yet, as I sat, an uninvited chill began to creep up my spine. Thanks for coming, he said. I know the past months have been a lot for both of you. Is that so? I replied, trying to mask the tremor in my voice. His gaze was steady, making it challenging to hold my anger and doubt together. I wanted to talk about Gabriel. He seems to be spending a lot of time with you lately, more than I expected. He paused, searching my eyes. I care about Gabriel. I care about you, too. Though I understand if you're feeling overwhelmed. That I clenched my fists tightly in my lap, fighting against the electric urge to lash out. Overwhelmed? You could say that. It's not every day you learn your son refers to his boss as Dad. That's a bit more than use of a nickname, don't you think? He sighed, leaning back in his chair. I get that this is new for you. It was never my intention to create confusion. I would never do anything to hurt either of you. But his words felt flimsy against the worries rising inside me. Then tell me, you had is your connection to him? I deserve to know. His expression shifted, something darker shadowing his face. I have a past, one that I never thought would overlap with my work life, just as he began to explain. An urgent phone call interrupted, and the look on his face shifted panic. He stood abruptly, looking down at his phone, and I caught a glimpse of a name that sent a chill through me. Jessica? Jessica? My breath hitched. That name struck a chord, echoing in my mind like a whisper. I barely noticed as Mr. Stone excused himself, the door swinging shut behind him, leaving me in the lingering dread of unanswered questions that I could hardly breathe, the room suddenly feeling constricting. Was this Jessica the missing piece of the puzzle? And what did it mean for Gabriel? As those questions screamed for resolution, I felt lost in a whirlwind of uncertainty, my heart pounding with dread. Just when the last fleeting fragment of hope began to flicker out, a small note fluttered from Mr. Stone's table, landing squarely at my feet. I reached down, my fingers trembling as I picked it up. That I in haste. I opened it, and the words within sent ice through my veins. I'm sorry. I've tried to protect you from this truth. But Gabriel deserves to know. Tonight, everything changes. A sinking sensation gripped me. The truth was on the horizon, but was I ready for it? The cafe faded around me as the weight of the note crushed down, an immovable boulder lodged in my chest. Tonight, everything changes. The words echoed ominously, a foreboding rhythm in my head. I pressed the crumpled paper tightly against my heart, searching for an answer, any answer, that could alleviate the dread gnawing at my insides. That I stumbled outside, the evening air hitting me with a sharp chill. The sky was bruised violet, the sun sinking slowly, casting long shadows that danced like specters. I hesitated, my hands trembling as I contemplated the implications. Did Gabriel already know something I didn't? How deep did Mr. Stone's connection to our lives actually run? As I stumbled home, the world around me felt foreign, yet oddly familiar. The distant laughter of children playing echoed as I passed the park. I paused, warring with my instincts to protect my son from whatever darkness awaited us. Gabriel's laughter floated through my mind, a bittersweet symphony of innocence that stood in stark contrast to the growing fear within me. Upon entering the house, the familiar scent of his toy-filled sanctuary enveloped me, wrapping me in a fragile cocoon of solace, until my gaze fell upon a collection of Gabriel's drawings scattered on the coffee table. Each crayon stroke held echoes of joyous moments shared between him and Mr. Stone. My heart twisted. How was it possible that someone so sweet could build a connection so profound in such a short time? Mom, the soft voice of my son brought me back. Gabriel appeared in the hallway, his face lit with a bright smile that crumbled my resolve. He rushed toward me, clutching a colorful paper airplane he had crafted earlier. Look, I made this for you. It can fly super far. I knelt to meet his eager eyes, forcing a smile despite the turmoil raging within me. Wow, buddy, that's amazing. Can you show me how it works? He beamed, his exuberance a tiny spark against the encroaching darkness. We stood by the open window, and he launched the airplane into the gentle breeze. It soared, gliding gracefully, as if mocking the heaviness in my heart. See, it's like it has wings, Gabriel exclaimed, his laughter washing over me like a balm, soothing my frayed edges. Just like you, right? I murmured, and for a fleeting moment, I felt lighter. He grabbed my hand, pulling me toward the next adventure he had planned in his imaginative world, igniting hope that flickered just a bit in the midst of growing shadows. But the peace was ephemeral. The minutes ticked by, each one weighted with the expectation of Mr. Stone's impending revelation. I found myself glancing at the clock, wishing desperately for it to slow down, but inevitability loomed, heavy and oppressive. As bedtime rolled around, I tucked Gabriel under the covers, his eyes already fighting sleep. Mom, he murmured, voice thick with drowsiness. Can Mr. Stone come read me a story tomorrow? He always makes them exciting. The question sent another bolt of fear crackling through me. Sweetheart. Well, see, I replied, uncertainty twisting my tongue. Are you sure you like him that much? He makes me feel like I don't know, like I can do anything. His smile glinted in the soft lamplight, pure and untainted. But could I allow this strange man to become a constant presence in our lives? The tumult roared back, a battle of intuitive protection against the unconditional love I felt for my son. Okay, buddy, I whispered as he finally succumbed to sleep, his chest rising and falling beneath the covers, each breath a reminder of the fragile safety I so desperately wanted to protect. I tiptoed out, feeling the chill of the empty hall wrap around me like a shroud. Alone in the dim light, the note felt heavier than before. In that moment of solitude, the only sound was the distant hum of the refrigerator, echoing the emptiness that settled heavily in the pit of my stomach. I reached for my phone, scanning through the countless unanswered messages from friends and family, but none of them seemed to matter now. I needed answers. I needed clarity. How could I shield Gabriel from a truth that seemed ready to fracture everything? Suddenly, a sharp knock echoed through the house. My heart crashed, and I froze at the sound, a sudden rush of adrenaline forcing every pulse to quicken. I approached the door cautiously, nerves presenting themselves in the form of trembling hands. As I opened it, my breath hitched. Mr. Stone stood there, looking tenser than I'd ever seen him. Can we talk? His voice was laced with urgency, filled with a weight that felt tangible enough to touch. Before I could respond, his eyes darted behind me. Is Gabriel awake? A little, I whispered, the dread pooling again. What's going on? He stepped inside, closing the door behind him with a determination that sent a chill racing down my spine. I couldn't wait. You deserve to know the truth, but it's going to change everything you believe about Gabriel and me. The room seemed to shrink as I felt my heart race, every instinct telling me that the revelations to come would tear apart the fragile calm I'd clung to all night. Then tell me, I demanded, forcing the words out even as everything within me trembled with fear. He took a deep breath, his eyes searching mine for understanding. You may not want to hear this, but just as he began to speak, the lights flickered, plunging us into darkness, a distant crash echoing outside. The phone in my pocket buzzed violently, and I had a sense of foreboding building, culminating in the knowledge that whatever truth unraveled tonight, it was only the prelude to chaos. The darkness swallowed the room whole, leaving me clutching the edges of the table just to keep my balance. I squinted into the void where Mr. Stone had been standing, his silhouette now indistinguishable. Panic seized me, a tightening grip around my throat. "Gabriel!" I shouted instinctively, the sound of my own voice jarring in the silence. A flick of light illuminated the hallway as the emergency lights in the house slowly flickered on. My heart thudded painfully in my chest as I spun toward the bedroom, fearing that somehow the shadows had devoured my son along with the light. "Mom!" Gabriel's voice rang out, tinged with drowsy confusion. Relief washed over me, but it was tainted with the lingering sense of dread. I raced to his doorway, expecting him to be frightened and searching for safety, but instead, I found him sitting up in bed, both pajama-clad legs swinging freely. "Are you scared?" he asked, his small face illuminated by the soft glow of the nightlight. "No, honey," I replied, forcing a weak smile. Just a little surprised. I ached for him to stay innocent, for the strength of his smile to be a shield against the tidal wave of fear threatening to crash over us both. I glanced back at the living room, where Mr. Stone remained silhouetted by the dim glow. "Just stay here," I said, turning back to him quickly, nerves racing as the pressing urgency of the moment hung in the air. "He'll be right back." The moment I stepped back into the living room, the sweeping darkness felt alive, its energy an oppressive blanket that clung to my skin. "Are you okay?" I asked, my voice trembling over the shadowy edges of uncertainty that surrounded us. "I'm fine," he replied, though he sounded anything but. He lifted his chin slightly, revealing more of his face as the lights stuttered back to life. The harsh fluorescent glow revealed a bead of sweat pooling at his brow, and for the first time, I saw the cracks in his composed exterior. "What happened?" I pressed, a surge of soldier-like courage knitting my brows together. "You were about to tell me something important. I didn't want to burden you tonight, but you have to. Gabriel needs to know who I really am." His voice cracked, and I flinched at the raw vulnerability sliding through the cracks of his bravado. The room felt stifling as I shrugged my shoulders, retreating instinctively into my own self-preservation. "What are you talking about?" The tremor in my voice didn't go unnoticed, but his gaze remained steadfast, unwavering that he stepped closer, his presence warm and commanding. "I'm not just your boss, Claire. I'm part of something much bigger than either of us understands. Gabriel is part of it, too." In my heart, old warnings rang, crashing through my veil of disbelief. I wanted to scream for him to stop to retreat back into the shadows where secrets lay. Instead, I found my voice caught in a web of confusion and disbelief. "What do you mean? What does that even mean?" "I can't explain everything now," he said, his eyes pleading for understanding. "But Gabriel, he's not just a normal kid. There's a reason we connected. A reason I can teach him the things I can." The hairs on my neck prickled at his words. "What do you mean? Reason?" But just as his lips parted, the storm outside rumbled ominously, reverberating through the walls and knocking a picture frame off its hook, a tangible manifestation of chaos that mirrored the tumult in my mind. A flash of lightning illuminated the room, casting eerie shadows against the walls. I could barely think in the midst of rising anxiety. "Are you saying my son is special?" Mr. Stone opened his mouth to speak, but hesitation held him captive, worry etching deep lines across his face. "It's more complicated than that, Claire." Before I could respond, a loud crash boomed from outside, causing both of us to turn toward the window, our hearts racing in tandem. Instinctively, I stepped closer to Gabriel's room, half expecting to see him charging out, filled with childlike bravery, but instead, I found him standing still, wide-eyed and curious. "What's that noise?" Gabriel's innocent question felt like a punch to my gut, pulling me back from the brink of understanding that I wasn't prepared for. "Just a storm, buddy," I said as I hurried to his side, all maternal instincts surging to protect him from whatever darkness loomed beyond our window. "Stay by me." The storm raged on as the wind howled fiercely, rattling the shutters against the window panes. Mr. Stone lingered just behind me, grappling with the churning tide of words that hung thick in the air like a dense fog. Suddenly, Gabriel's small hand slipped into mine, grounding me amidst the rising dread. "Mom," he whispered, his eyes glistening with amused courage. "Is Mr. Stone going to be my dad? I like him a lot." The words struck me like a lightning bolt, freezing everything inside me. My body went cold at the implication, my heart pounding with the weight of everything yet to unfold. The words escaped my lips unbidden, a reflection of my deepest fears. No, sweetheart, let's wait just a but. Even as I spoke, I could see the glimmer of old fears surfacing in Mr. Stone's eyes, shadows dancing where trust had begun to form. Would our past turn us into what we feared the most? The answer hung in the air, heavy with something more than a simple true, the tangled thread of fate connecting us in ways we had yet to fathom. It was a maelstrom of uncertainty, and with it came the realization that tonight was far from over. In this storm of revelations, the real tempest brewed just behind our fragile walls, a truth that could shatter the delicate existence I fought to protect. I glanced at Gabriel and then at Mr. Stone, the rawness of our situation closing in around me like a tightening noose. If my son could so casually question their bond, what other truths lay waiting in the storm, primed to break apart everything I once believed to be steadfast and sure? With the world crumbling around me, the only thing I could be certain of was that this crossroads would define our lives in ways I hadn't begun to comprehend. And with that, the echoes of Gabriel's innocent question rang hollow, a terrifying premonition that left everything hanging in delicate balance, waiting for the winds of change to sweep us away. The wind howled like a wounded beast, diluting the edges of my sense of reality. As I stood there, grasping Gabriel's hands, my mind was awash with conflicting thoughts, the desire to shield him from the truths lurking in the shadows, and the undeniable pull of a mysterious bond that seemed to transcend my understanding. Mr. Stone, his expression unreadable, took a tentative step forward, and I could sense the tension in the air as he brought his gaze to meet mine. "Claire, I know this is overwhelming," he began, his voice steadying despite the tremors of the storm outside. "But you need to understand there are things in this world that are hidden from most people. Things that Gabriel might be receptive to." "Receptive?" I echoed, every ounce of anger and confusion bubbling to the surface. "What does that even mean?" "You're talking about my son." The sharpness of my voice echoed against the walls, competing with the thunderous sounds outside. "I'm sorry," he said, his face hardening. "I don't want to put more weight on you than you can bear, but the moment I met Gabriel, I felt a connection like he could see into places others can't. You might think it's a fantasy, but stop." I cut him off, the emotion bubbling dangerously close to the surface. "You're losing me. This isn't some fantasy story where you're the quirky mentor and he's the destined hero. He's just a boy." In that moment, I felt a flicker of warmth as Gabriel squeezed my hand, grounding me amid the whirlwind of uncertainty. His face, lined with confusion and concern, brought my spiraling thoughts back to what mattered most: to protect him, to believe in his innocence. "Mom, is Mr. Stone going to hurt us?" He looked scared. The question hung heavily, a breach of innocence that could not be undone. "No, honey, it's okay," I said, the panic rising in my chest. "He just has some things he wants to talk about, but you're not ready to hear them," Mr. Stone interjected softly, a hint of sorrow lurking beneath his voice. "And honestly, I don't know if I'm ready to share every truth with you, either." "Then what's the point?" I shot back, frustration mingling with fear, straining to keep my composure. What could possibly warrant this chaos? "Why can't you just be a regular boss and stay out of our lives?" He began, but another loud crack of thunder cut through the air, rattling the very foundations of the house. An urgency swept over me, and before I could think, I turned back to Gabriel. "Let's go to the kitchen, okay? I have a feeling we might need some hot chocolate." But Gabriel lingered, peering back at Mr. Stone. "Can he come?" I felt the walls closing in as I fought against the sensation twisting knots in my stomach. Here was my son, still looking for a semblance of normalcy, a fragment of trust untainted by the truth that swirled dangerously around us. "Gabriel, let's just go," I said, forcing a smile that crumbled under the weight of my anxiety. Yes, we turned. I could hear Mr. Stone's footsteps behind us, an uninviting shadow in the dimly lit hallway. I hurried ahead, desperately wanting to distance myself from whatever secrets seemed to coil around us like a serpent. In the kitchen, I filled a pot with water, my hands trembling as I tried to focus on the mundane. Steaming mugs seemed to wear a deceptive veneer of comfort, and as I listened to the rain batter against the windows, the weight of silence bore down heavily upon us. Seeking any semblance of hope, I opened the cupboard where my favorite mugs rested. They had been Gabriel's grandmother's, and each one held a memory, a story. I turned one over in my hands, brushing my fingers against its chipped rim, trying to nestle a little comfort amidst the turmoil. "Oh, you think it's going to get worse?" Gabriel asked, watching me with eyes that mirrored both concern and innocence. That I knelt to meet his depth, offering a tight smile lest he see the cracks forming around my heart. "No, sweetheart. We'll be okay. Just a little storm." "A big storm," he corrected, tilting his head. Then, with boyish bravery, he added, "You can be brave too." "Mom," my heart swelled in the warmth of his words. If only I could take his courage, slip it into my pocket, and release it in that moment of fear. "I am, buddy," I whispered, the tremor in my voice betraying the truth. A gentle rush of air swept through the kitchen as Mr. Stone stepped in, filling the doorway with a presence that felt both comforting and daunting. "I didn't want to intrude," he offered, eyes flickering to the steaming pot, as if it were an anchor amidst the storm. "But there is something I need to tell you both, before it's too late." The gravity in his voice pulled at my chest, tension thickening as silence cloaked us, waiting for either my acceptance or rejection of his words. I opened my mouth, but nothing came out. Then, the ground beneath us trembled, a sharp rattle that felt like an earthquake, leaving us startled and breathless. From outside, the sky lit up in a blaze of brilliant color, a chaotic montage of luminance that pulsed with brilliance before dissipating. "What was that?" Gabriel exclaimed, his eyes wide with wonder, a stark contrast to the apprehension auguring in my heart. That I turned to Mr. Stone, desperate for answers as panic clawed at my insides. His face was taut, unyielding as he seemed to scan the horizon, searching for meanings hidden within the tumult of the night. And then, from the corner of my eye, I noticed the glimmers of an iridescent energy dancing on the edges of the trees beyond our yard, sweeping like a tide toward us. "Gabriel," I whispered, instinctively pulling him against my side. "Whatever happens, promise me you'll stay close." Mr. Stone stepped forward, determination painting his features. "You need to listen to me. If we don't move now, we may lose everything we hold dear. There's more at risk than you know." But before I could answer, the lights flickered violently and then went dark, shrouding us in a visceral blackness that gripped my heart with fear. In the suffocating silence, a realization laid bare the fragility of our fate, a truth demanding to be acknowledged. I felt the world tilt, spinning on an unseen axis, pulling us with Tinto realms unexplored, where echoes of laughter, innocence, and truth mingled with shadows of unknown peril. And in that moment, so much hung in the balance: me son's future, my heartache, and the haunting clarity that the storm was just beginning. The air hung heavy, saturated with a kind of tension that felt like a living thing, breathing around us. The fading glow from the retreating storm outside painted the kitchen in eerie hues, and I instinctively tightened my grip around Gabriel, as if the force of my love could shield him from the encroaching darkness. "Mom?" Gabriel's voice trembled just above a whisper. "Why is it so dark?" "Sometimes the dark helps us see the light," I murmured, though I wasn't sure who I was trying to reassure, me son or myself. The words felt hollow as they left my lips. The oppressive silence that followed made my heart race as I waited for the power to return. Mr. Stone broke the quiet, his tone grave and gravelly. "There's a reason you're experiencing these phenomena, Claire. The storm, the lights, it's all interconnected with what's happening to Gabriel." He paused, as if grappling for the right way to share truths that twisted in the depths of his mind. "Sometimes the darkness reveals what we need to hear, not necessarily what we want." That I wet my lips, unable to quell the rising tide of panic swirling in my gut. "What do you mean by that?" He exhaled slowly, the weight of unspoken words lingering on his shoulders. "It's about legacy, what you've each inherited. Gabriel might not just be your son. There's a connection to something bigger, Clary, a lineage that holds significance." "Lineage?" My hate for the absurdity of his claims ignited. But looking down at Gabriel, still full of awe and curiosity, I scolded myself for allowing frustration to rise like bile. "What are you saying?" "You might need to accept that Gabriel's intuition, his connection, whatever it is, extends beyond typical means of understanding. He is part of something more." The word "more" hung ominously in my mind, a harbinger of complexities I couldn't understand. "Like being some sort of gifted child?" Not talent, Claire. This is far more intricate. Suddenly, the flicker of the kitchen lights returned with a straining surge before settling into a steady glow, illuminating the lines of worry etched across Mr. Stone's face. The room felt instantly less claustrophobic, but the tension remained, a chord strummed at the heart of our conversation. Gabriel? I turned to my son, whose eyes were wide with innocence and curiosity, oblivious yet sensitive to the swirling emotions enveloping us. Do you feel different from other kids? He thought for a moment, a look of concentration deepening his brows. Sometimes I know things before they happen. Like when the rain will start, he volunteered, his childish optimism unwavering even under the weight of uncertainty. Yes, honey. And I can see shadows moving in the dark, he continued, the gleam of honesty in his eyes illuminating both hope and fear. And sometimes they look like people. Mr. Stone's gaze hardened, a reflection of urgent understanding, while I wrestled with my own disbelief. Gabriel, those could just be know what I see, Mom. He insisted, a whisper of frustration breaking through. I don't want to hide from it anymore. The volume of my own heart thumped in reaction, each pulse seeming to echo in the charged air. Gabriel, listen to me. I don't want you to feel like you have to face these things alone. We'll figure this out together. We don't have the time, Claire, Mr. Stone cut in sharply. The longer we delay addressing this, the more danger he will be in. His eyes bore into mine with a kind of plea, but I wasn't ready to concede. Danger? What kind of danger? I asked, feeling the ice of fear encase my spine. The world outside had taken on a surreal glow, the remnants of a storm merging with an unsettling energy that felt alive, moving like currents through the house, as if warning us of something lurking beyond the threshold. It's not just about the gifts, he continued, his words dripping with urgency. It's about the legacy that threatens to come crashing back into your lives, Claire. It all leads to the family you thought you'd left behind. My blood ran cold. What do you mean? My family? No, before I could finish, the lights flickered again, and as I glanced at Gabriel, I saw him, staring past me, wide-eyed. Mom, look. Trapped in his gaze, seeking the source of his fascination, I followed, my breath hitching in my throat. At the window, the silhouettes of dark figures danced against the glass, shadows moving with ethereal grace. Echoing the whispers of voices I couldn't hear yet, they beckoned with a familiarity that sent chills racing down my spine. Gabriel, I whispered urgently, my voice trembling. Do you see those? Yes, he breathed, enchanted. They look like family. Instinctively, I pulled him closer, my heart pounding, the weight of dread settling heavily upon me. No, we need to leave. Claire, we can't run from this. They're not here to hurt you, Mr. Stone urged, grounding my flurry of thoughts. They're drawn because of Gabriel. We need to understand what this means. Understand? I spat, feeling the rawness of disbelief colliding with fear. What does this even mean? That my son has enemies lurking? That our life is intertwined with whatever darkness threatens? His silence was unsettling, and in that moment, the house illuminated with another flash of energy, and I felt it lightning through my veins, urging me to surrender to the inevitable. Suddenly, a low rumble echoed through the floorboards, as if the very home we lived in trembled under the weight of revelations seeping through the walls. A hypnotic lullaby of whispers enveloped me, words lost in the fray, yet woven through the fabric of legacy and love. But love, for once, felt terrifying, challenging everything I thought I knew. Instinctively, I turned to Gabriel, my heart aching at the thought of losing him to this fate. Then, through the crack in the window, a voice that sounded hauntingly familiar whispered, "Come home." Claire. My world tilted on its axis again, entangling the threads of what I had thought were severed. A truth resurfacing, something I never imagined would unravel my perception of both family and the man standing beside me. And in that moment, as the thunder rolled once more, new shadows emerged with devastating clarity, promising that the storm was just the beginning of a tempest I wasn't prepared to face. Yet I had no choice but to confront no safety from the truths battling to break through. The quiet of the kitchen was now punctuated by the steady rhythm of my breath as I absorbed the chilling implications of that haunting voice whispering through the crack. "Come home, Claire." The words were a siren's call, weaving a spell over me. I could almost hear the echo of laughter, the warmth of familiarity that had long since been buried beneath layers of time and pain. Stone's eyes flicked between Gabriel and me, the gravity of the moment almost palpable. This isn't just about legacy. It's about connection, the kind that binds across generations. Dad, the words slipped out in disbelief, sounding foreign even in my own mouth. Gabriel's innocent inquiry pulled me from the depths of my racing thoughts, and I felt an unsettling mix of dread and yearning swirl within me. In a single heartbeat, I had been thrust back into memories I had fought to bury. Mom, if he's my dad. Gabriel's innocent mind was already stretching the boundaries of understanding and fear. Does that mean I can be like him? Like who, Gabriel? My heart raced as I sought clarity amid this explosion of feelings. The storm outside had echoed what roiled in my mid-tempest I had long wanted to keep hidden, but was now laid bare before my son. Stone stepped forward, his voice a low murmur. Claire, the entity drawing near isn't merely your past. It's your son's future, too. Your lineage has a history, one that intertwines with the unknown. If you don't confront it, I don't want this. I cut him off, a flush of anger washing over me. The weight of decisions lay heavy on my shoulders, and I was terrified. What if my family is as broken as it once was? What if all it brings is pain? Gabriel, with the sweet innocence that had always anchored me, tugged on my sleeve. But Mom, family is supposed to be together, right? If he's my dad, maybe we can make it whole. Those words settled over me like a blanket, soothing, yet suffocating reminder of what could have been. Just then, the shadows outside flickered again beneath the posture of an approaching storm, as if nature itself recoiled from the truth encroaching upon our lives. Everything shifts with this revelation, and Gabriel isn't just experiencing a gift. He is the vessel for what's coming. Mr. Stone's voice resonated with urgency, piercing through my rising doubts. Vessel for what? I snapped, feeling the gravity of his claims as they coiled tighter around my heart. Gabriel kept looking at the shadows, seemingly enraptured, unaware of the tempests raging behind his mother's facade. Stone's face set in a grim expression. For the realities that are trying to manifest. Your past isn't just rising up, it's seeking them out. Its potential power, and it can be violent. The darkness we've merely glimpsed in shadows is not gentle. I looked to Gabriel, the embodiment of Lovia, pure, radiant light shining against that vast darkness. We will not touch this. I spoke softly, the mother's instinct to protect igniting within me fiercely. I will shield you from whatever legacy haunts me. Yet even as I articulated my conviction, I knew the lie I was telling myself. It wasn't merely something to push against. It was brewing beneath the surface, slick and insistent. The air thickened with an unseen energy, and for a heartbeat, I felt it shift the open window, permitting a gust of wind that felt warm, almost affectionate as it swirled through the space. Suddenly, I jerked at the startled noise escaping Gabriel, who stood frozen, eyes wide. Mom, they're moving. His voice was choked with emotion, a mixture of fear and something I dared to hope would be wonder. There's a woman too, he said, excitement coloring his tone. She's smiling. A lump formed in my throat. Impossible, I thought. I was nurtured in a family shrouded in secrecy, in hurt where smiles were mere masks for the chaos and anguish buried deep within. Gabriel's innocence was a lighthouse shining into dark waters I had thought safely behind me. Mr. Stone sidled up beside me. You faced your past, actively battled it by leaving. But this is different. This is not just a haunted. You're being offered a bridge to understanding. If you turn away now, it may lead to greater darkness. Then what? You intend to usher my son into a world that nearly destroyed me? My voice had gained a brittle edge, the plea for safety turning into a desperate accusation, not into it. Knowledge, Claire, is power. Our fear often blinds us, and the choices we make define who we are. Hiding from it only solidifies the hold it has over you and him. The shadows outside momentarily flared in response, almost as if mocking my refusal. I shuddered, the impending storm now feeling closer, threatening to break open the dam of my buried history. Gabriel laughed as a flickering silhouette emerged, a woman casting an ethereal light that momentarily illuminated his joyous face. Mom, she's so beautiful, Gabriel. I hissed. The urgency of my voice must have penetrated the haze of enchantment wrapping him, and I pulled him closer to me, the weight of the moment pressing against my chest. "We can't," I murmured, as if spitting the denial might help shred the tenuous bond already forming between my son and the shadows that sought to claim him as their own. But Gabriel's small hand found a way to break through my protective shield. "I want to know her." I have to. Just then, the front door of our home burst open, throwing open a blizzard of wind as shadows swirled violently, drawn magnetically toward Gabriel. A figure stood in the doorway, cloaked in darkness, but it was the familiar outline that froze my blood. A memory resurfaced, a smiling face that had not been erased from my mind, though I had willed it to disappear. "Dad." Gabriel's voice broke against the shock of recognition as the figure took a step forward that I stumbled back, the reality crashing down on me. My heart twisted as I confronted the impossibility of it all. Time stood still, capturing the moment as I saw the truth unfurling. Gabriel, the boy wandering on the edge of a precipice, a bridge between light and shadow, between history and hope. The storm roared outside, and the darkness solidified around us. The fragile shelter of our lives, the last flicker of safety, had been shattered irrevocably, and all I could do was wrestle against the surging tide of past and future, love and fear, entwined forever. The air crackled with an electric tension as I stood frozen in disbelief, my breath hitching in my throat. Gabriel's innocent voice echoed in the tremendous silence, reverberating the weight of a truth I had anxiously skirted. My heart raced, a wild percussion against the backdrop of memory and impending chaos. "Mom, can you believe it? He's my dad." Gabriel bounded toward the figure in the doorway, his small frame glowing with an exuberance that felt alien and unsettling. Each step he took made the reality dig deeper, forging a divide between what I had built for him and the legacy that had haunted me all my life. "No, Gabriel, wait." I instinctively reached for my son, but the air felt thick, like molasses slowing the passage of time. I could only watch helplessly as the shadows danced around him, entwining him with promises of love and acceptance, forged in darkness but shimmering with allure. Claire, the voice was familiar yet tainted, slipping through my defenses with the ease of a whisper. It belonged to the man who had drifted like smoke through the corridors of my memoria, figure always out of reach, but never fully forgotten. My mind flashed to the fractured moments of our past, the soft laughter, the sharp pain. Memories twisted and turned, morphing from comforting to suffocating in an instant. "Don't!" I cried out, my voice shaking with a mix of fear and protectiveness. I ran forward, pulling Gabriel backward just as the figure stepped closer, his features shrouded in gloom. "You don't know him." My chest felt like a vice tightening around my heart. "Claire," he murmured again, but the weight behind the word was changed, infused with emotion I hadn't expected. It became a question, a plea, a bridge spanning a gulf wrought with time. "Get back." I barked, dread spilling from me like desperate rain, but Gabriel's excitement remained unshaken, an embodiment of pure love and hope that erupted from within him. "Mom, he's here. He's finally here to meet us. Don't you understand?" I fought back tears, the mixture of anger and anguish bubbling into an uncontrollable tide. "It's not that simple. You don't know the darkness that you're inviting in." Yet, amidst my fear, I saw the shadow of something tender flicker across the specter's face. "I'm here for him, Claire," he insisted, his voice smooth yet stained with resentment. "I never stopped being his father. You just kept me away, because it was safer." I screamed, the words crashing through the kitchen like thunder. "For both of us. I had to protect him from everything you are." A palpable silence fell over us, as the storm outside pulled itself tightly around the house, wrapping its furious arms around us. The flickering shadows seemed to amplify the cacophony of coiling emotions igniting inside. The storm was merely the physical manifestation of the uproar in my heart. Gabriel stood rooted in place, his innocent eyes darting between the father he barely knew and the mother he trusted with everything. "But, Mom, what if he wants to be with us? What if he can help us?" My heart cracked at the fragility of Gabriel's yearning. I had built our world on the bedrock of a mother's fierce love, one that would bend but never break. The truth of his father, this man who hovered between the shadows and the safety I had worked so hard to create threatened everything. Help, I scoffed, bitterness heavy on my tongue. What can he help with? You have no idea of the chaos he carried before he walked away. Maybe it will be better now. Gabriel protested, his voice rising with the innocence of hope unassuming of the tangled past. Maybe he's changed. I don't care about change. I care about protection. My vision clouded as sorrow fought against the torrent of fury. I had buried that chapter of my life so deeply it felt like uncovering grave dirt itself. Yet here I was, about to let it rip away all we had built. Change is what's needed, Claire. The shadow figure, filled with both lingering anger and an unexpected warmth, stepped forward again, his presence brushing against the edges of my defenses. You can't shield him forever. Maybe I can try. I hissed, desperation tinging my voice, a fragile thread weaving between an impossible choice. As I felt the room closing in, I resolutely remembered the nights spent rearranging our lives to keep the darkness at bay. The clock was ticking towards some malevolent reckoning, and I wanted to shield him from it all. But the darkness is here, Mr. Stone interjected quietly, his eyes locked onto mine, an understanding forming in the spaces between our breaths. It surrounds you now, Claire. You must confront it before it consumes you both. A flicker of uncertainty crossed the figure's face. There was a glimmer of sincerity as he took another step towards us, but paused. Gabriel looked at him with a mixture of fear and curiosity, drawing a more serious tone that made my heart leap. Are you truly my dad? Gabriel's voice cracked like a fragile twig, and the air stilled, all hope and fear converging beautifully, maddeningly breathless lie together. That I tugged him back, my heart pounding in its tumultuous cage. No, I declared, resolute as the storm continued to rage outside. You don't have to choose this. Choose me instead. Choose us. That I in that moment. The world fell silent, suspended the storm holding its breath alongside my son. But as the figure's gaze softened, something dreadful flickered at the periphery of my awareness. It was the dawning realization that the battle wasn't just with shadows, it was whether I could truly pull him away from what he wanted, what seemed vibrant and real, towards safety that felt achingly empty. Behind me, the walls trembled, resonating with the truth I had tried so hard to skirt, creating a chasm between past hopes and present realities. My absence has created this void, Claire, the shadow I once loved said, an echo of sorrow threading through his words. But I can fill it if you let me. And just then, the wind shifted, an undeniable force ushering in a whisper I could not decipher, threatening to unravel everything. Should I abandon the only safety I knew to grasp at the future he beckoned, or would I imprison my son in a phantasm of fears? A thunderous crash echoed through the house, the door slamming shut against the oncoming storm, causing the shadows to swirl in a dizzying dance around us. In that moment, I knew this truth was a double-edged sword, and I was standing on the brink of what was destined to unfold. I needed to make a choice that would echo through both my past and Gabriel's future, and as I grappled with the tangle of emotions, the unyielding grip of fate tightened around me. Mom? Gabriel's voice broke, the innocence trembling against the weight of impending change looming larger. And as I turned to him, I held his gaze filled with a mixture of fear and unresolved hope. The abyss of could best expanded before me, and I wrestled against the horrid knowledge that the final choice was not only about protecting my son, it was also about confronting the truth of who I really was. But I didn't know if I could withstand the storm brewing, not just outside, but within as well. The wind howled like a weeping child as the storm raged outside, framing the moment with a chaos that neatly mirrored the turmoil swirling within me. I felt like the walls were closing in, anchors of my past threatening to drown me in fear and doubt. With each heartbeat, a single thought rippled through my mind. Can I protect Gabriel from this man? The crack of thunder shook the ground beneath us, and I turned to face Gabriel, whose wide eyes glistened with hope and confusion. Mom, please, he whispered, his small hands trembling. This isn't just anyone. It's my dad. The words sliced through the air, heavy with implications about love, loyalty, and the haunting specter of forgiveness. I felt the world tilt slightly on its axis. My son was looking at me as if I were the one standing in the way of something miraculous. But he's not who you think he is, I protested weakly, casting one last desperate glance at the figure, trying to tether my anger to the man I had once loved. The man who had brought chaos into my life and shattered the very fabric of our world. He stood there, a dark silhouette against the flickering kitchen lights, his eyes searching mine with an intensity that made the air feel thick with unspoken truths. "You taught him to fear the darkness I represent," he said quietly. "And yet, you've woven shadows of your own." I felt the sting behind his words. I was a product of my fears, binding not only myself but my son to the darkness I had sworn to keep at bay. I did it to keep him safe. I countered desperately. "You have no idea what I've been through, what we've been through." Gabriel's face crumpled slightly. "But you're scared. You're scared of him, Mom, just like you're scared of what could happen if we let him in." Those little eyes, bright with innocence, pierced the armor I had built around my heart. I realized, with growing horror, that the hurt was already here. The fear I tried to contain had seeped into his world, infecting our once peaceful life with anxiety over the father he had never known. "Do you really think I'm a threat to him?" The figure stepped back slightly, vulnerability breaking through the tough facade. "Whether you mean to be or not, it doesn't matter," I said, agonized realization washing over me. "All that matters is that you were absent. You don't get to retake a place in his life after walking away so easily." A flurry of emotions churned in the air: regret, longing, anger, and their cacophony found me in the eye of the storm. I wavered, perception shifting as shadows danced across the floorboards. And then, just as the winds howled louder, something surprising happened. The figure stepped forward yet again, this time with an outstretched hand. "I may not have been present, but I want to be here now, for you both. I'm trying to make up for my absence, as if caught in the whirlwind of fate itself." Gabriel suddenly took a step closer to him. "Maybe this is a chance," he whispered, and my heart shattered anew at the sight of his innocent belief. "We can be a family, no," I exclaimed, the word bursting forth from my lips like a torrent struggling against the dam. The weight of my denial pressed against me like an unbearable weight. "You don't understand the danger that follows him, what he could bring back into our lives." But Gabriel's soft, imploring gaze held me in place, filled with a tenderness that belied the storm within. "Mom, you always say things can change. Can't people?" The question hung in the warm, suffocating air between us. Could he truly have changed? Was I keeping my son from something that could redeem us both? As I struggled to forge the boundaries between love and protection, cracks began to show in my resolve, each fissure echoing with my panic. The figure's eyes glinted, sharp yet tender. "I can help you both. I want to be better," he insisted, searching for a way to reach me. Full of hope, but still laced with my mistrust. His resolve mirrored the weight of our past. And then, the ground seemed to tremble beneath our feet, the storm suddenly raging with an intensity that felt like a whisper against the chaos of my heart. "Claire," the figure said, the intimacy in his voice breaking the distance between us, "just give me a chance." But before I could respond, the cacophony of nature outside escalated, and I turned to the window, just as a flicker of lightning illuminated the space, revealing the truth hidden in an unexpected flash. A dark figure standing at the edge of our property. My heart raced even faster. "What? Who is that?" I wondered aloud, and desperation clawed at my throat. Just when I thought the world had completely unspooled, a second flash illuminated the night. A woman, her eyes wild, her clothing torn. She stood saturated and shaking in the downpour, a figure unexpected, yet achingly familiar. And then the world tipped on its axis, the gravity of the moment holding me, drawing me closer to a truth buried in seemingly solved pasts. She lifted her head and met my gaze, her lips parting as if to speak, revealing a name I never thought I'd hear again. A silence enveloped the kitchen, filled with anticipation and dread. "Claire, it's me. I've come to warn you," she gasped, breathless and urgent, as thunder rolled ominously overhead. Every fiber in me recoiled, the layers of pain peeling back in the tempest of resolution and consequence. Just as I felt my heart shatter anew, the weight of the new reality began to settle over us like a specter wrapped in uncertainty, creating a sense of impending chaos that promised to upend everything I had fought so hard to build. The moment she spoke my name, 1,000 memories crashed into me, like waves erasing the sandcastles of my carefully constructed life. Jessica, the ghost of my past, the name I had conjured in the shadows of my thoughts. There she stood, drenched and trembling as if the storm itself had spirited her away from the depths of my buried fears. It was a sight that disarmed my anger, ignited every ounce of self-doubt, and yanked my focus away from the shimmering contours of what could have been. "Stay back," I shouted, my maternal instinct flaring, pulling Gabriel tighter to my side. I felt small, helpless against the weight of years spent running from this woman, from the chaos that accompanied her. She was the heart of darkness I'd shielded my son from. Yet now she stood before me, hands raised in resignation. "And oh, listen to me." I could hear the desperation in her voice, a sharp contrast to my own unyielding resolve. "I came to help." Gabriel's eyes flickered between us, a whirlwind of confusion swirling in his innocent gaze. "Mom, please, who is she?" I wanted to close the door to the past, to banish Jessica back to wherever she had hid all these years. Instead, in the chaos of the storm, I felt her lingering words seep into my thoughts, a haunting melody that resonated somewhere deep within my heart. She's someone who once meant a lot to me." I stammered, my voice raw, shuddering as I glanced at the figure confronting me. "But you must understand, she isn't what you think she is. I am not here to hurt you," Jessica pleaded, her voice breaking, sounding fragile against the roar of wind and thunder. "I've made mistakes. I know how it feels to stand on the brink of darkness, but I have information. I know why they're here." "Enough!" I roared, a slip of fear snapping through me as I pointed an accusatory finger in her direction. "What do you mean, why they're here? Who's here?" "Those shadows," she said, her gaze drifting to the darkened edges of our yard. "They're drawn to Gabriel. They want to use him for what he carries within him. The power it's too alluring for them to resist, Claire." A chill seeped into the bones of my resolve. "Power?" I echoed, feeling the weight of its implication. My voice trembled as I turned to Gabriel, placing my hand over his small heart. "No, darling. You have nothing to fear from them, nothing at all. I am scared," Gabriel cried, and my heart shattered anew. The innocence of childhood, wrapped in the thrill of the unknown, morphed into a knot of fear that tugged mercilessly on my heartstrings. Jessica stepped closer, her hands trembling as she tried to reach out, but instinct drew me even tighter to my son. "You need to trust me." She looked toward the figure lingering by the doorway, now shifting uneasily, tension clinging tightly around him. "We all have our pasts. We have to face it together. But if we don't act now, if we don't come together to protect him, he could be taken away." "No," I snapped, unwilling to let the wheels of my life start turning in reverse. "We can't let him near you. That past you both share? It's dark, filled with choices that put him in danger. I've worked too hard to create a safe life for him." "Safe?" His voice boomed from the doorway, casting shadows that seemed to flicker in the overhead light. "How safe can you be when you deny the truth? You've taught him to fear his own legacy." "No," I pushed back, my frustration boiling over. "I've not taught him to fear. I have taught him to hold on to what's good, to fill our lives with light. I won't allow your darkness to seep in and corrupt what's left of us. He can thrive in both worlds." "Claire," Mr. Stone interjected, urgency threading through his words. "Hiding from it will only expose him to greater threats. We cannot shield Gabriel. We must prepare him." Again, the storm outside intensified, mirroring the turmoil in our small kitchen, the air thickening with tension as the three of us stood locked in an unyielding battle between love, fear, and the longing to protect my son. Yet, among the cacophony of emotions, a thread of fragile hope began weaving itself through my Korean notion that perhaps facing the past didn't mean surrendering to it. "Gabriel," I said softly, kneeling to his level, "I want you to be safe. I need you to know that your life, your choices, they belong to you alone. This is your journey. You really think I've just been a shadow?" he asked, eyes shining with sincerity, his small heart clinging to its innocence even now. "Maybe the darkness is just like the light. Maybe they have to coexist." Feeling as if my breath had been taken, I felt a tear slip free. "But, my love, the darkness can take so much from you if you're not careful. You must trust that we want to protect you above all." Suddenly, Jessica's voice rang through the tempest of opinions. "No, Claire. You must let him choose. Fear has chained him, too, just as it bound you. Your fear of letting him become off, allowing him to embrace the truth." Tension hung heavy, thick with resignation. Could it truly be fear that held us captive? I glanced at Gabriel, a small light against the threatening storm of shadows, and imagined the weight of the choices he might face. My heart ached at the realization that my fight against the past shouldn't be to guard his heart, but to prepare him for whatever lay ahead. As the echoes of my own pain reverberated within me, I took a deep, brave leap of faith. Okay, I sighed heavily, resolve tinged with vulnerability. Show us. Help us understand why we're all here, and what it is you want from Gabriel. Together, a flicker of surprise crossed Jessica's face, mingled with relief. Thank you, she whispered, genuine emotion evident in her trembling voice. Mr. Stone nodded, encouragement igniting in his gaze. Let's uncover this legacy, together. It's time to end the darkness. Yet, as I stood there with my son, light and shadows meeting uncontrolled, I realized that we stood on the precipice of a storm far greater than the one outside. A lifetime of hurt, secrets, and healing awaited with choices that would challenge our very existence. Mom? Gabriel's voice pulled me from my reverie, the innocence of his call striking a chord deep within. What if they're not bad? With tears glistening in my eyes, I knelt and pulled him into a hug, the bittersweet warmth of love pushing against the icy tide of fear. Then we will be brave together. But promise me that we'll stay united against whatever may come. We face everything head-on, as a family with strength. Together, we could confront the sun and the shadows, binding what once was lost into something new, something beautiful. The storm had only just begun, and while I knew the path ahead would be wrought with trials, the memory of Gabriel's laughter reminded me that even storms can bring forth growth, learning to weather each tempest not with trepidation, but with courage and love. And as the air shimmered with energy, as ancient truths unfurled, I realized that no matter the darkness that swirled around us, my heart had always known one undeniable truth. Love could weave together even the most fractured of legacies. With that understanding, I took a deep breath, allowing the storm's energy to wash over us, a prelude to the powerful resolution awaiting our transformed lives. Together, we were more than the shadows lurking outside. You were part of the intricate dance between light and dark, tethered by an unbreakable bond of hope. Because at that moment, united in the eye of the storm, I could finally see its true purpose. Our story wasn't one of fear at all, but of finding a way home. And so, with my precious son by my side, tethered to the spirit of family, I lifted my chin, ready for the revelations ahead, whispering into the encroaching night, we are whole again.